And I got my little helper here, and he's gonna make sure that I do a good job. Buddy. Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. So I am standing here in my butler's pantry. As you guys can see, the pots and pans and these racks, and I am actually doing a whole series on remodeling this pantry. So definitely subscribe if you guys want to stay tuned for that. But the project that we're going to start off with is, if you guys can see all the way in the back there, is going to be addressing those tiles and the sheetrock. So let me show you guys what I need to get done there. Okay, so as you guys can see, we've got this space that is not usable at the moment for us. We don't have dogs or pets or anything that we need to contain in an area. So I'm gonna take this out, I'm gonna install cabinets, redo the flooring, do a whole bunch of things in this pantry. So the first thing is going to be removing this gate, removing this tile, and redo the sheetrock. So if you're somebody that's looking on how to redo sheetrock, this might be the video, or you might get a tip or two. If you're looking at tile, maybe a bathroom or a backsplash or anything like that, and you're thinking about saving the sheetrock behind it, do not waste your time. Cut out the sheetrock, redo the sheetrock. It'll save you a bunch of headache and time, and most probably you will not be able to take the tile off without destroying the sheetrock underneath. So first things first is I'm going to remove this gate and then start cutting out the sheetrock. The best way to do that is to remove the tile with the sheetrock. So I'm going to take my razor blade and score it all along this edge. And then I'm going to take everything off in big pieces. So let me grab some tools and start demoing this wall. I am going to be redoing this floor, so I'm not concerned about these tiles falling and damaging the floor. So I'm just going to go ahead, cut it out, and let's see how easy this stuff comes out. Quickly want to give you guys a quick tip. If you want to wedge this whole board out, as you guys just saw me do, I missed the stud there. However, there's the stud there, and what I try to do is I look for where I can possibly see where the screw is. So you'll see there's like a little dot, and that's usually an indication of where the stud is. If you don't have a stud finder, I mean, I could go and get my stud finder. I'm going to do sheetrock work, so it's not the end of the world. So as for this side, where I'm gonna take it out, I'm gonna wedge it. And then if you guys can see there's pretty solid. That's where a screw is, so that's where I know where a stud is. And I can put my wedge in there and just pry it off. If you don't have a stud finder, that's one way to look at it. Okay, so I'm quickly going to show you guys how I prefer to cut sheetrock. I'm not a professional. I don't do this every day. I know there's people out there that's got like 20-30 years experience cutting sheetrock, and they knock it out within a few minutes. I need to take my time, otherwise I mess it up. So I'm going to quickly show you guys how I do it step by step. So first thing is going to take my measurement, measure what I need, and then I'm going to rough cut it using my razor blade, snap it, but I'll show you guys here how I do it. So first thing is I'm going to measure where I need to make my cut. 57 3/4. What I like to do is draw a line using a pencil and then use my razor blade. I know the professionals, they just use the razor blade and go straight ahead. But I'm going to take a pencil and then just draw a straight square line all the way through. And then on that line I take my razor blade with this, just for my own peace of mind. And you don't have to cut this very deep. You just want to kind of get like 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 inch of the blade into the sheetrock. So what I like to do once I score it is just give it a little kick with my knee and kind of keep slight pressure, and it will just snap. And then you just take your razor blade and give it a cut right on that line on the back. And that's it. That's how I cut my sheetrock. Okay, so this is after the cut. As you guys can see, it's a pretty decent line. However, there are a few imperfections. So I'm going to use this little grater and just run it through on the top and get it all smooth as possible. Okay, so I got my first piece of sheetrock ready to go in and screw it down. So I just want to give you guys a quick tip or something I would advise you to do. As you guys saw, I did put in a couple of screws on the existing wall. That is just to re-secure it to the wall, and then also you know where your studs would be when you're going to screw down your sheetrock down there. Okay, so the first piece is in, and now I'm just gonna continue all the way around, cut them to size, and then finish it up, and I'll show you guys how to start mudding. So we got all the sheetrock in and everything's fitting good and it looks good. We're getting closer to a finishing product, and now it's time for the fun part. And by me saying the fun part, I'm very sarcastic by saying it is time for the mudding. Not my favorite part. I'm not the best at it. There are many ways that people do it. I've seen videos where people with 10-20 years make it look super easy. I'm going to tell you, it is not easy to do mudding on sheetrock. And that is why people charge what they charge when it comes to sheetrock. So I'm going to show you guys the way I prefer to do it, using paper tape on my seams and then two different muds. So I first use a joint mud, joint compound mud, that's going to go on all the seams with the paper tape, and then after that I put my finishing mud on top of it. So let me first start with the joint compound, and I'll show you guys how I mix that. Okay, so I'm quickly going to go over on how to mix this joint compound mud. Obviously you'll need a mixer with a drill to mix the mud, and then I'm using this 45 compound. That refers to 45 minutes before it starts curing up. I prefer to use the 45 joint compound because that gives me the longest time possible that I can work with the mud. I don't do this every day, so I definitely take my time to making sure I get everything in where I need to get it in. So first things first is I'm going to take a little bit of water in this blue bucket and then throw some 45 on it and mix it. And I want to get it not completely soupy, but you also don't want it firm. You just want to have it nice spread. So if you use your putty knife or the knife you're going to put it on the wall, you don't want it like dripping off of it. So I'll show you guys the consistency of what I like to use, and then also the tape that I'm going to use on top of it. And as you guys can see, that's kind of the consistency that I like to have. So it's not like super runny, but it's also not very tight. So kind of like right in the middle. Let's go sling some mud. And I'm just using this paper tape as I'm gonna put my mud on here, my tape over it, and then we should be good to go. And there's the first joint done. So I got a couple of more joints to go, and let's see if we can make it look decent at least. So I'm quickly going to show you guys how I prefer to do the corners. So I got my mud set up in the corner. So I'm going to take my tape and put it all the way into the corner as best as I can. And then I flatten one side at a time. So I'm going to do this side first. So I'm going to focus on getting this edge flat first. And then once that is flat, it will kind of hold the paper in place. And so when you drag it down, it won't move around. So I'm going to do one side first. So one side is done. It's not great, but it'll hold the paper in place. Now I can do the other side, and then afterwards I can try to get it as close to perfect as possible. Okay guys, so a quick update. We got all the seams covered up with our joint compound mud, so we're looking good. I know it's not looking great, but we'll leave our finishing mud to get it perfect. Okay guys, so the next step is going to be for me to put on the finishing mud. What I personally like to do, because I'm not a professional, I don't do this every day, and I'm just speaking from experience, what I found from doing it before. What I like to do is I start with all the vertical seams first. That way you can focus on getting those perfect, and then tomorrow, the next day, when it's all dry, you can do the horizontal seams. The reason for that is what happens to me is it's quite funny, because again, I'm not a professional, is when I get these like perfect, say for example this middle one, I got the mud all smooth out and I'm happy with it. The moment I go and put my horizontal mud on, somehow I always mess up this horizontal line. So what I've decided to do is, even if it takes a day longer to do the project when it comes to those kind of things, is so I do my vertical lines first, and then tomorrow I'll come back and do the horizontal lines. That way I know these will be good and I would not mess it up again. I am using this all-purpose mudding compound. This is going to be like karate, wax on, wax off. So you put on mud, wipe it off, put on mud, wipe it off, until you're happy with the finished product. The more time you spend with the mudding, the less time you're probably going to have to do when it comes to sanding. So you kind of decide what's your flavor, sanding or mudding. So sometimes I get to a point where this is enough and I'll just finish it with the sanding. But I'm gonna do my best to get it as close to perfect as possible. So let's see what I can get done. Okay guys, so before I get to this upper seams, I am going to do the corners first. So what I like to use when doing the corners is one of these. So it's like an angle with an inside corner. You put on your mud and you just wipe the corners. It makes it super easy for the corners instead of using a blade. It's definitely a personal preference, but this is just, I feel like, a lot easier for me. Okay, so I got mud in the corner and I'm gonna use this tool, wipe it down, and let's see what we got. And there you guys can see the corner is all done and mudded up. Okay guys, so the mud is finally dry and we can go ahead and sand. So as you guys can see, this wall or this seam is not perfect, and if you're like me who doesn't do sheetrock every day, it's probably going to take you a couple of times of mudding and sanding to get it really smooth. If you're lucky, you might get it on the first try. However, I don't do this every day, and in reality, most probably you're going to have to do a couple of layers of mud and sand. And unfortunately, that's just the way it goes. I'm sure you have seen before some clips or videos that they do it one time, sand it, and it's done. In my case, I've almost never experienced like that, especially if you want to get it closer to perfect as possible. If it is behind cabinets and stuff like that, you don't have to worry too much to get it perfect if it's going to be hidden, but this is going to be exposed. So I'm probably going to have to, over the weekend, sand and mud a couple of times to get it as smooth as possible, so there's not any lines in between. So now that it's dry, it's time for sanding, and I'm going to give you guys a quick tip when it comes to sanding. So a quick tip that I recently discovered that I did not know before is that you can actually sand it with a wet or damp sponge. If you sand it, that sheetrock dust literally goes everywhere, and that's a fact, like the sky is blue. If you're in an open area, I would recommend try to do a wet sponge sand. That'll definitely save you a lot of cleaning. I'm going to show you guys quickly how that works. So I got my sponge here and I'm going to show you guys on this area. So it's like lightly damp, there's not any water coming out of it, and you just basically go in circles all the way through. So it would basically wipe off the excess mud and really smooth it out pretty good. So you can do that if it's in an area that you do not want to get super dusty. Luckily in this butler's pantry, the door is closed and I'm away from the rest of the house. So I might go ahead and sand, but if you do a small area with a sponge, it will definitely save you some cleaning. And you just do that very gently, just rub in circles, and it'll definitely smooth out without any mess. So as you guys can see, these seams came out pretty good. I'm gonna have to do this top seam again. There's a couple of pinholes, and then also on this side, it definitely needs a little bit of more work. Okay guys, that's gonna be a wrap for this video regarding the sheetrock and the mudding. If you guys have any thoughts or comments, drop them down below. Let me know what you guys think, if you like it or have any advice for me. If you guys like this content and learned something, please consider subscribing. In the next episode, I am going to show you guys everything when it comes to painting. We're going to painting the walls, the ceiling, and we're actually going to be painting some brick. Until next time, goodbye. Okay, and now in the next